Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and hot rodders of all ages. Pull up a chair and let's talk about these seats. Hey, you see what I did there? Seats, chairs. No, really, let's talk about the bomber seats that we're going to put in this little tribute tea bucket. Uh, so, as you can see, I've got one mounted. I've got the holes drilled for the other one. And let me tell you how I decided how I'm going to mount these. There's several different ways to do it. I'll show you a couple different ways. Basically, it's endless on how you can mount this. But this is a setup I've come up with, and it seems to work good. All right, so let's get started by talking about different ways. This is a bomber seat. Here is, as usual, there is the part number. Now, there's two different seats. They're basically identical, with the exception of the other one is just solid aluminum. It's welded. It's got a nice rolled edge on the end, so there's no sharp edges or anything. For the price, not a bad bang for the buck. So they've also got, this is a mounting kit that they sell, and it's a universal mounting kit for this style of bomber seat. And here you can see the universal kit, and there's the part number for that. Basically, it's another piece of aluminum. This is the bottom edge, gives you 3 mounting holes. You can always change that. But let me show you how this goes on. So let me move the wonderful camera over here, working by myself again. So basically this goes on and it's going to mount to the seat in this form right here. If you were, if this was in an open car where it had a door and you've seen this, I would go ahead and use this. As you can tell on this tea bucket, you're not going to notice this part. So it's not really a thing that I'm going to use and put on. So what I can tell you on this, when you do get it, you can trim this to get the height you want, even if you need to go that high for the correct height that you need. You can either drill this, bolt it, pop rivet. Now you could even weld that on there. So that's up to you. I'm not going to use that mount. I'm going to show you what I came up with. It's a little better system, I think, for this particular build. And I'll walk you through that, and I'll tell you why I decided to do this little particular setup on this. So I could bolt this right to the floor, and that's one way. Let me show you what that would look like. Just bolt it or just set onto the floor. So as you can see, that's setting directly on the floor. Oh, hold on a second here. Got a little friend here. Let me get rid of that guy. That might grow up to be a shark tooth, brown recluse, diamondback, spider-eating, man-killing bug. So we just took care of that. But anyway, so if I bolted this straight to the floor, you can see it's not going to be 100% where it fits. It really doesn't fit in there if you were bolted to the floor. I could make it fit, but it's just, if it was up a little bit, it would be a lot better. So this one is up. And let me tell you what else is great about this. So I met a friend the other day. I call him a friend because he was a very nice gentleman that just happened to be behind me with them red and blue lights on. And when he came up to me to give me some paperwork to sign, he had a little clipboard like this. And when I made that friend and I signed that piece of paper for that was on that clipboard, I said to myself, Self, that's when I recognized my voice. So I said, yeah, what is it? Why don't you get one of those little books like that and put it inside the tea bucket? That way you got a place to put your insurance card, your, whatever paperwork you need. And the beauty thing about that is, let me walk around to the passenger side and I'll show you. So the beautiful thing about that is, after I got my paperwork in there, I can slide it underneath there, and I got a place to keep all my paperwork and everything, and if I need to get it out, I just slide it right out. Makes it really nice and handy to keep your paperwork someplace, because let's face it, there is no room inside one of these tea buckets for a glove box or any such thing. So that's just an idea. You don't have to take that idea and run with it, but if you do, feel free. So let's get back on these seats, and let me tell you how I come up with mounting them. So I got to walking around the shop, and I've got this, for lack of a better term, I got this log of, it's called UMHW. Now, I'm not 100% sure that I remember what that stands for right off the top of my head. It's ultra high molecular basically this is a plastic, and that is 2-inch long plastic. So it's easy to cut. I cut my spacers to 1 3/4 inches. I cut them on a table saw. You can use a bandsaw, you can use a hand saw. You could use just about anything with the exception of the cutoff wheel in a die grinder. Cutoff wheel, this is going to gum up and it's going to really suck. So after I cut that off, I marked my center hole. I drilled a 3/8 hole and I countersunk that. Why did I countersink that? Because I'm going to use countersunk bolts. And look how nice that fits in there. So let me show you on this seat. So this seat shows up. It doesn't have these 4 holes here. I went ahead and measured on those, marked them, and they were just regular holes. I went ahead and countersunk those so that when that's in there and tightened up, you know, you can draw over that, and that's not going to catch you on your blue jeans. It's not going to make a sore spot when you're riding, you know, where it would have been if you'd had a 3/8, or not a 3/8, but a hexagon or button head style bolt. So that just some little things in there makes the life a lot easier. So you're probably wondering how I went ahead and did that. So let me move some of this junk off of here. So I drilled my hole, you know, before the countersink. I put the countersink part on there, flat washer and a nut, and I just drew that up on there. And that gave me the little recess. It matches the other recesses. So once I did that, I was ready to transfer those holes into the body. Now, there's a couple different ways you could mount these, you know, screws into the body and everything. Yeah, I could have probably run some kind of tap in there and tapped the fiberglass. That's not really a good way to do it, I don't think. So I was walking through one of my woodworking shops that I visit, and they had these little inserts. They're made for woodworking. This one just happens to be the correct size for that bolt to go into. Now, I drill a hole for this diameter. I put it up there. You can countersink and put some little screws in there to hold that in. So that's what I did underneath the body. So it makes it really easy to go ahead and install these, and let me just show you how easy it is. All right, so I've already got them installed from the bottom, and they're sticking up just a little bit. I went ahead and countersunk that a little more so that those little pucks fit in there just right. Got that one upside down. All right, now I can take my seat, and it's as simple as putting Legos together. Well, I say that, now it's giving me problems. There we go. It just takes a little wiggling on that. Then I'll just take my little 1/4-inch drive impact. And there you go. So one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your seats are the same height there and they're parallel across here. And basically that's how I'm going to mount those seats. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, send me an email, text message, or not a text message, but go ahead and send me a message on YouTube and whatnot, however you do that. I've had a couple, I've answered them. A couple guys wanted to know the part numbers of these seats they've seen in a different video and whatnot. So if you got any questions, feel free to reach out. And this is a word from this week's sponsor.